Donald Trump has released an ad claiming that Ted Cruz supports amnesty for undocumented immigrants. And so in return, Ted Cruz has come out and said, no, it's you, Donald Trump, who's in favor of amnesty, which means that once again on the Republican side, we've got a catfight. I just realized it's been a long time since we first made that. We should probably update the faces eventually. They're all from like years and years ago. But anyway, as I said, we're going to be starting off with Donald Trump, who has an ad which I think seems pretty effective in putting across the case that Cruz isn't necessarily their person when it comes to undocumented immigration. You're going to see that out here.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Sounded like you wanted the bill to pass.
Of course I wanted the bill to pass, my amendment to pass. What my amendment did is take citizenship off the table, but it doesn't mean it doesn't mean that I supported the other aspects of the bill.
I want immigration reform to pass, and that allows those who are here illegally to come in out of the shadows.
That amendment would have allowed undocumented immigrants to remain in the U.S. permanently and obtain legal status. So how do you square that circle?
Actually, Brett, it wouldn't have.
People want to take back their country. We want to do it in a humane way, but we have to have a country. We don't have a country right now. We have people pouring in. They're pouring in. And they're doing tremendous damage. If you look at the crime, if you look at the economy, we want to have borders. To have a country, you have to have borders. We don't have borders right now.
Wow, just keep pounding it in there. Okay, so that's Donald Trump's ad. So Ted Cruz is not going to take that lying down. You know, he's a fighter or whatever. And so he gave multiple interviews over the course of this week responding to these claims. You're going to see two of them mashed up here.
So Donald Trump's position is once you deport him, it's what's called touchback. A lot of establishment Republicans had touchback. Basically, you make them fly back to their country for a minute, touch the ground, and then they come back with amnesty as citizens. Now, Donald is entitled to do that. He can advance that position, but he doesn't get to pretend that it's not amnesty if he's legalizing and making citizens, 12 million people, here illegally. I would note at that time, right in the middle of the fight, Donald Trump was publicly supporting amnesty. He was supporting Marco Rubio's DREAM Act. He was criticizing Mitt Romney for being too tough on immigration. That's where Donald Trump was in 2013. Now, when he launched his campaign for president, suddenly he discovered illegal immigration was a problem.
I feel a lot better because throughout the past few months, I've been worried that they would try to radically change the face of America by deporting millions and millions of people. But apparently, they're both in favor of immediately making them all citizens. Yeah. I don't know what we're supposed to take out of this. Neither of them seems like huge fans of undocumented immigration, but they're trying to paint each other as like secretly going home and putting on a sombrero or something like that. They both hate immigrants, you fools. You're not going to fool us into thinking otherwise.
My favorite part always about watching Republicans talk about immigration, and particularly amnesty, is that their messiah is the only president to ever grant it to anyone. It's just like, what? How do you like?
And negotiations with Iran.
Yeah, I'm like, why did you pick this guy? It's like with the picking like Christianity as their like religion of choice. I'm like, Christianity is like super anti like wealth and okay, all right, sure, like stick with him.
It's probably like who's your favorite painter from the past 150 years? Did you just like try to come up with a name you've heard? Yeah. Maybe that's how the whole Reagan thing started.
It must have been because I'm like the
He's
amnesty.
not the man that they say he is.
Yeah, I'm like you're saying Obama's granting amnesty, and then what was Reagan like super amnesty? Like what? How? Okay, keep going with that, I guess.
Now
Van Gogh.
That's mine. Yeah. Actually, I like Flavin. I think he's one of the best.
Flavin.
I've seen some of his stuff. Look, I mean, the reality is that were they to become president, and if you were to look back over all that Ted Cruz has done as a senator, some of the bills that he supported probably would have allowed for certain pathways to citizenship for small communities of people and things like that. That's a part of bills being complicated things that involve parts that you want to vote for and parts that you don't. But I believe him when he says he hates these people and he wants them out. And Donald Trump has made that pretty clear. Now, was Donald Trump on the opposite side of the issue 9 or 10 months ago? Probably, because that's how he is on all of the issues. You don't know where he's going to be. He used to say that there should be like a 14% tax on all the wealth the rich have at one time to clear the national debt. He's a different man now in a lot of ways.
He endorsed Hillary Clinton as well.
He endorsed Hillary Clinton.
You know? said she surrounds herself with great people. Way back in 2007. So yeah, you never know where he's going to stand on that.
Yeah.
And so, this the idea that even in his commercial now, if you were a responsible news network or a network, you wouldn't run that because it's misleading. It's filled with, when he says people are pouring over the border, pouring into this country, we know.
I saw the video in his ad.
That's right.
They're pouring over the border.
He couldn't find videotape of Muslims cheering 9/11, but he could find videotape of Mexicans in Morocco.
What is interesting about this is what they try to avoid every time. When you get into a big primary contest, what you don't want as a party is for several of the frontrunners to spend months tearing each other apart. Right. And all that's going to come out of this, although Trump has been largely immune to these sorts of criticism, it doesn't seem to stick. But if it does, then both he and Cruz is going to look worse to their base.
Yeah.
And some of that is going to stick going forward. And there's going to be a little bit less enthusiasm to actually vote for them.
You know what? I think it's what you're saying. I totally agree with what you're saying. I would just say that I think Trump has been, and everybody's been kind of watching this and saying the same thing. I think we'll find out that Trump has been immune to this only with his base. I think with mainstream America, he has done a tremendous amount of damage to himself. And I think, I want to try and be nice, but I think his base is maybe not amongst the sharpest pencils in the box. And so I think that maybe what he says plays
you're
well.
Safe in saying
is that. Okay, good. I was like,
you're safe.
But I think he'll find that he's done a tremendous amount of damage to himself with the mainstream public. I mean, you're calling Mexicans rapists. I mean, you're denigrating, what was it, Carly Fiorina, as a woman saying about her appearance.
Yeah.
That's, even the comments he made about John McCain, it's like, I like people that weren't captured. Like, who are you to make a comment like that?
Yeah.
Like, you've never even put on a uniform. So I think with his base, he can get away with anything. I'm sure Charles Manson's base isn't really terribly surprised at anything he says either.
Yeah.
But I think on a mainstream level, I think he's really hurt himself badly. And if he gets the nomination, that we'll see that he's eroded a lot of maybe support that he would have had.